The retiring Taylor's last year on the PDC circuit has not been without incident. There has of course been sporting success, including a 16th World Match Play title, but also controversy, much of it centered on the Grand Slam of Darts, where he lost in the semi-finals to Michael van Gerwen. During that match the players were seen in heated discussion as they left the stage for a break. Later the victor was asked what had happened, and recounted a frankly not enormously interesting conversation. He came to me, "You should NT to this, you should NT to that. I just said you're a knob." "That's exactly what I said," Van Gerwen explained. That was as nothing compared with Taylor's quarter-final against Daryl Gurney, which exploded into acrimony because of a refusal to let a lack of water pass under the bridge. "The first person to walk on stage normally pours the water," Gurney explained. "He was first on and didn't pour any water. I just assumed he didn't want in any, so just poured my own. Big mistake." Having won 12 successive legs on his way to a 164 victory, Taylor raged, "I wanted to teach him a lesson, of course I did. You know what he did wrong? He poured himself a glass of water, and left me out. I thought, you cheeky young so-and-so. Without me there wouldn't be a PDC. Have a little bit of respect, come on." Gurney declared himself bemused. "I always said he was the master and said nothing bad about him, but he still says bad stuff," he sniffed. "I just didn't pour him water. I always said he was the greatest, the best and a legend. But as far as I'm concerned now I only have to look at him for one more tournament and then HES retiring. I might not be the future of darts, but HES definitely the past, and I'm happy about that. I think HES just getting old and grumpy and looking to pick fights with random players." The ATP. For the first time this year, the ATP closed its season not only with the now traditional grown-up ATP finals but with a second competition for up-and-coming youngsters, the next-gen ATP finals, which was eventually won by the 21-year-old South Korean Chung Aeon. This competition was played at Fiera Milano, and the ATP decided that it would be good if, at the pre-competition draw to allocate the players to two groups, they could somehow refer to Milan's status as a city famous for fashion. They did this by asking the players to each choose a glamorous female model and stride with them up a catwalk where their chosen companion would reveal either the letter A or the letter B hidden somewhere on their body. Cue extremely awkward young tennis players publicly squirming as a beautiful woman partially disrobed in front of them, accusations of sexism, and in due course an ATP apology. The intention was to integrate Milan's rich heritage as one of the fashion capitals of the world, it explained. However, our execution of the proceedings was in poor taste and unacceptable. We deeply regret this and will ensure that there is no repeat of anything like it in future. Scott Baldwin this year in rugby union has featured a Lions tour, lots of mauls, and one mauling by a Lion while on tour. The latter incident forced Scott Baldwin into perhaps the most unexpected of this year's many sporting apologies, after the Wales and Ospreys hooker had a run-in with a big cat and thus missed his club's own mauling by cheetahs. Steve Tandy, his coach, revealed after the game there had been an incident with a lion during a visit to Bloemfontein Zoo which was videoed and inevitably uploaded to Twitter, by the former England player Andy Good. "I don't know what sort of wildlife show Scott has been watching where you can pat a lion on the head as if it's a kitten," Tandy said. "It's probably one of the silliest things I've been involved in." Baldwin needed 4 operations and missed 3 matches, though at one stage medics considered amputation, before returning to fitness. "I petted the female one with no issues, and when the male sat down I stroked him on his head," the player recalled. "Then I turned round to give one of the boys my phone to take a picture. The lion obviously noticed that I had turned away and, being the king of the jungle, he took his bite. When you see the video it looks very quick, but for me it felt like a lifetime. It felt as though I was staring into its soul." Carew Cricket Club's controversial title winners. Photograph. Western Telegraph. Carew Cricket Club. What should have been a thrilling denouement to the Pembroke County Cricket Club Division 1 title turned into chaos and acrimony when the bright spark at Carew noticed that the best way of stopping their rivals, Cressley, from earning the batting bonus points they needed to pit them to glory when the rivals met in the final game of the season was to declare for a humiliatingly small total, guaranteeing both defeat in the season's final game and victory, by a single point, in the overall title chase. Thus, having scored only 18 runs from 15 deliveries for the loss of 1 wicket, their batsmen upped willow and headed back to the pavilion. Officials examined the rules and found that no one had broken one, and the silverware thus had to remain with Carew, but they demoted them, fined them £300 and banned their captain for the 2018 season, with the final 2 months suspended. Asian Autosport Action Organizers arranged a unique race when the Formula 4 Southeast Asia Championship moved to Sepang, part of the undercard for the Formula 1 Grand Prix in September. It was unusual primarily because not a single car was able to finish it. Because of delays caused by a broken drain, 2 races were held consecutively, using the same cars, and boffins calculated the amount of fuel each vehicle required to get to the end of both events. It turned out that their sums did not add up, and everyone's good work went, unlike wastewater over the previous few days, down the drain. Everything was going swimmingly until Indonesia's Perdana Minang stopped in the middle of lap 5. Daniel Frost, who was leading at the end of that lap, was one of 4 drivers whose cars ran out of fuel on the 6th circuit, and 3 more came to a halt on the 7th. With a safety car deployed because of the number of stationary vehicles littering the track, the one driver who was still moving, Kane Shepherd, drove slowly behind it in the hope of claiming an unlikely victory, but short of deploying a tow rope he had no hope. The Asian Autosport Action chairman, Peter Thompson, explained that we filled the cars for both races, but miscalculated the requirements. They decided to accept the results at the end of lap 5, giving the then 16-year-old Frost, whose career as a driver of international repute has not been held back by the fact that he will not become able to legally drive in his native Singapore until next October, victory. It was strange but a very interesting day too, he said. Elena stays whether he was offending Serena Williams, creeping out Anne Keothavong, abusing journalists or driving Johanna Konta to mid-match tears during Great Britain's Fed Cup tie against Romania in April. Nastase could do no right. When the Romania team captain was introduced to his opposite number, the married pregnant Keothavong, he asked for her room number and told her that we keep being attracted, also saying things that, according to the Briton, I am not going to repeat because it's language that is not appropriate for anyone to speak to any other human. Nastase then speculated to the media about the colour of Williams' then unborn child. The following day he approached a British journalist, Eleanor Crooks, who said he repeatedly called me stupid and said the English were out to get him in an encounter that was unpleasant rather than threatening, before taking his place courtside for Konta's match against Sorana Cirstea. Konta was a set ahead when, amid complaints about crowd noise, Nastase asked the umpire what's your fucking problem, called both Keothavong and Konta fucking bitches, and was eventually escorted off the premises and banned from all tennis for 2 years. In an unusual twist, the Czech Republic decided that Nastase appeared to have the perfect skill set for a second career in diplomacy and duly appointed him the country's honorary consul in Romania. I trust Mr. Nastase, said the Czech Foreign Minister, Lubomir Zaoralek. I am sure his transfer from sports to diplomacy will be successful because he realizes the responsibility he has in the new function. Harry Mafuji as Johnny Bairstow and Cameron Bancroft among many others have proven, it can be unwise to put 2 sportsmen together in the same bar. What set this incident apart was not only that it shook the normally mannered world of sumo wrestling, but that the assailant chose to beat up his foe with, of all things, a karaoke machine remote control. Harry Mafuji, one of only 4 reigning grand champions, was forced to quit the sport after setting about a fellow wrestler, Takaniwa, for the crime of looking at his mobile phone while being administered with a dressing down about his already disappointing behavior. There were, to be fair, a large number of weapons mentioned by eyewitnesses, including a beer bottle, a microphone and rather scarily an ice pick, while others said Harry Mafuji had used nothing but his bare hands. I had heard he was lacking in manners and civility and thought it was my duty as a senior wrestler to correct and teach him, Harry Mafuji said. But I went too far. Quite a lot too far. The victim ended up with a fractured skull. Wayne Shaw tucks in as Sutton take on Arsenal. Photograph BBC. Wayne Shaw, the 46-year-old Sutton United reserve goalkeeper, nicknamed the Rollopoly goalie for his corpulent appearance, caused an enormous rumpus after being pictured tucking into a pie on the bench during his team's FA Cup tie against Arsenal in February. What he may have considered a joke became something of a sporting tragedy when he resigned the following day, while the Gambling Commission and the Football Association both launched investigations. The problem was that a bookmaker, coincidentally the very same bookie that had arranged to sponsor Sutton's shirt for that evening's game, had offered odds on that very occurrence, and Shaw had admitted that some people he knew had put money on it happening. We are told we are not allowed to gamble as it is full-time professional football, he explained. This is not the case here. This is just a bit of fun, and me being hungry. The Gambling Commission sniffed that integrity in sport is not a joke, while the FA took 7 months to come to a conclusion, in which time it ended its own lucrative sponsorship deal with a major bookmaker, and then banned Shaw for 2 months. By then the now ex-player had moved on to his next project, with AFC Totton, announcing in May that local, national and international celebrity Wayne Shaw has joined as our new commercial manager.